welcome to episode 1 of the Football History Boys podcast with me, Ben Jones, and my good friend, Gareth Thomas.
Hello.
Okay, so we're thinking of opening the podcast by just telling you a bit about ourselves. Gareth has prepared pages and pages of research into ourselves, which is nice. Do you want to give us some more information, G?
Yeah, okay, so Ben and I met at secondary school, didn't we? Secondary school in Cardiff, different forms.
Yeah,
although I think the love of football brought us together. You went a separate way for sixth form, didn't you? And then we rekindled our friendship at Swansea University. So there we go, Swansea University's to thank, isn't it? History course, studying the first day. Do you remember we met on the first day? That was great. Oh my gosh, you're here as well.
Yeah.
How did the Football History Boys start though, Ben?
That started in our second year, just after Christmas, because we were doing our history degrees and we had loads and loads of spare time. Of course, we probably should have been doing a lot more work, but we thought, what should we do with our spare time? And our housemate, Liam, came up with the idea of coming up with a list of the top 250 footballers in the world of all time.
I think he was a bit sick of us arguing about football all the time and debating it. So he was like, tell us who's the best. Sort out a way of finding out who is the best.
So we thought we'd sort it out, and we thought, let's create a website of all the players. That took ages. We thought, whilst we're doing it, let's write a few little bits of bobs around it, about different players and teams. So we did that, and eventually that just became the main part of what we were about, and we just kept the writing going. So February 2013 is when we started it.
Yeah, and it's sort of been a reasonable growth since, isn't it? I mean, 2014 we won the Football Blogging Awards as best new blog, and then I think life got in the way a little bit, didn't it? We've both teachers, both trained to be teachers, and I think sort of the Football History Boys perhaps just got put aside a little bit.
Yeah, lesson planning took over, and football writing took a back seat for a bit. But then, last summer, I think after the World Cup, we inspired to get it back on the road, and we started writing again, just in time for you to start your PGCE. Yeah. So that's a bit about us on the blog, and recently we've been writing about the greatest Welsh footballers. That's our new series we're doing at the moment. So we've had 6 people writing for us. They've been really good blogs, excellent pieces of work, which have discussed 10 players in total, and debating if they are the best in Welsh football history. So who have we got first, G, to discuss?
So our first topic, we are Welsh. We think we should start with a nice Welsh one. So as you may have seen if you follow some of our writing, and you can check us out at TFHBS on Twitter and at the website, thefootballhistoryboys.com. Our first player then, let's chat about. We'll start modern, and we'll look at Gareth Bale. We'll look at the situation of Bale, because he's obviously got a modern situation going on as it stands, and how he's doing in terms of his Real Madrid career. But let's chat about him as a Welsh legend. So we talk about Welsh greatest. We are talking about them in a career, in terms of club career, but we're also talking about them in an international career context. So Gareth Bale, Ben, what are your thoughts on Gareth Bale?
During the time we've been watching, I don't think no one's been better than Bale for Wales. 31 goals in 77 matches. It's not a bad record for Wales. Obviously, it is the record.
I've never seen anyone like him live, I don't think. Certainly not in a Welsh shirt in that way. I mean, I remember when Walcott joined Southampton, there was an article in the Welsh paper here we've got, the South Wales Echo, saying about this kid who's in the Southampton Academy who could be the next Walcott, which seems funny to say now that Bale could be the next Walcott.
Yeah.
And it talked about how this guy was going to be great, and obviously then he signed for Tottenham.
Left back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. And actually it didn't really work out for him initially, did he? Because I think he was linked towards a $3 million move to Birmingham at some points. People weren't convinced by him. And then it was that night, was it 2010, Inter Milan, that hat-trick.
That
staggering hat-trick.
Destroyed Maicon, didn't he?
Oh.
Zanetti as well. Yeah, because my brother, of course, was a year above him in school in Whitchurch. And I remember him telling me when my brother must have been about 13, I was probably about 8. And he was like, there's this boy in the year below me. He's called Gareth Bale. He plays for Southampton. He's amazing at football. And I was like, whatever. And then, about 7-8 years later, he was signing for Tottenham, and then obviously eventually world record figures at Real Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, I was I worked part of the time with BBC, something I was doing over the summer in uni, doing some work experience there, and I worked for the BBC the day that he signed for BBC Wales, and obviously that was madness because they were running around, they couldn't believe that this Welsh man was going to go for this much money, and then he flew back that next day to come play for Wales, even though he had just signed. He'd done the press conference, he'd done the whole Hala Madrid press conference with his family, and
Hala Madrid.
Yeah. And he pops back for the Wales game, and I think that for me, his consistency with Wales, despite his club career, is something that like stands him out.
Apart, yeah,
stunning. I mean, how many caps you say he's got? 77?
77. So he is the joint seventh with Joe Ledley on the all-time list, which for his injuries he's had is quite good.
And the fact he's 29, he's 30 next week, so he's 30 on the 16th of July.
So he could say I imagine he'll get over 100 by the time he stops. But yeah, excellent player really, and 77 games, obviously major tournament appearance, and got quite. How many goals did he get in the Euros? 4? Yeah, 3 I think. Was it? Yeah. 3 goals there, and he was pretty superb there. Obviously, semi-final he was outshone by his friend and rival Cristiano Ronaldo. But yeah, I mean, recently his career's taken a bit of a downward.
And that's what worries me about Bale, because I think from where he was thinking about that sort of initial thing with Real Madrid, obviously he's won 4 Champions Leagues, which is staggering, but that Copa del Rey goal he scored against Barcelona where he ran off the pitch and was still outpaced him. We've not seen that Bale for so long.
Not seen pace for a while, haven't we?
And I think he's lost his confidence. Certainly Zidane has said that he doesn't want him. Bale's agent I saw yesterday was saying he's not going, he's staying. Mm-hmm. I think Bale needs to leave, and I think in terms of when we're talking about the Wales greatest, Bale could absolutely be Wales greatest.
I think so,
and I think he probably will get there just from the number of trophies he's won and things like that. But definitely for me, he needs to move on and save his career really, because he is just almost 30. He's got hopefully 5 or 6 years left in him at least. So I'd like to see him move on for the benefit of himself really this summer.
Nice. Right, so let's have a look at another player in the... I'm going to look at the top goal scoring list. I'm just going to run down this list actually, see what you think of some of these players. Second up, Ian Rush. He was in our top 10, wasn't he? And I did an article on him.
Yeah, you wrote about Ian Rush. Give us just a little bit of a lowdown then on Ian Rush. I'm sure everyone knows Ian Rush, but give us a bit.
Well, Rushy, as I like to call him. His friends like to call him. I mean, when I was a kid... we should probably say who we support, shouldn't we? So I'm a big Liverpool fan.
Cardiff City seasons take older, so I've been going to Cardiff since I was young.
Yeah, so my dad is also a big Liverpool fan, and he had a VHS tape when we were a kid called Liverpool Team of the Decade, right? Liverpool in the 80s. And Ian Rush was on there. I remember just watching him just bang away every single chance he had, just finishing everything, and it was amazing. So I wrote the article on him. I looked quite closely at his Liverpool career, which is pretty impressive, really. I mean, 346 total goals in 660 games. It's just an excellent player. I mean, he was a record teenage signing when he joined 18. Didn't quite get first into the first team, but he soon won people around. And I mean, 2 Champions Leagues or European Cups, numerous league titles, FA Cups, 5 titles. I mean, yeah, it's just. I think finishing wise is brilliant, and what really impressed me was looking at his Welsh career was just how much he performed on the big occasion. He had winning goals against France, Italy, Spain, and Germany. I mean, he's got some stiff competition though with other strikers.
I think the problem with Rush is the time he was playing. I mean, it's often said with Wales, and we cannot besmudge Hal Robson-Kanu, because as we were watching the other night. Back on S4C, that Cruyff turn, that stunning goal.
Yeah.
But Wales have had great number 9s, but not at the right time. And you think if we'd had that number 9, even now for this qualifying campaign that we've just been through, where we've lacked goals, and it seems to be that we're still lacking goals, how much more? An Ian Rush figure on the end of stuff from Gareth Bale, on the end from stuff from Aaron Ramsey, it'd be a dream. I'd take Hearts and all those back certainly, but Ian Rush was just a natural goal scorer. Mm-hmm. So many goals. for his club, 28 for Wales. So yeah, I think he's perhaps hurt a little bit just in the time he was playing. Wales weren't very good.
No, I'll carry on down the list of scorers. We'll keep with the forwards for now. Steve Morrison. No. Not Steve Morrison, obviously. Right, Ivor Allchurch, third in the list. 23 goals, 68 games.
Another one of our focus points. That was Josh Thomas. Thank you for your article on him, Josh. So Ivor Allchurch, this is where we start to fall back a little bit in time. So Ivor Allchurch, just for those of you who are not aware of him so much, born in 1929, born in Swansea. And actually he's been called, and Josh likened to this in his article, the golden boy of Welsh football.
In a time when obviously John Charles was playing as well.
Yeah.
That's quite a big thing to be told.
He was chums with Charles. He played for Swansea Town, before they were a city, was Swansea Town. And he scored a huge amount of goals for them, actually. In the second division, he was only a second division player, really, obviously the modern day championship. And he scored 124 league goals in 327 games for the Swans.
There's a statue of him, isn't there, outside? Is there a statue of him outside
yeah,
the ground?
Yeah, there's a statue to him now. And so actually, for Swansea, he was pretty consistent. In terms of his club career, just moving on, I know we're talking about Wales, but in terms of his club career, he moved on to Newcastle for £28,000, big fee at that time. Big fee, 28,000 to Newcastle. And there, again, very good record, very solid record. In his debut season, 16 goals in 26 games, 46 and 143. Then, just very quickly, Cardiff. So he's someone who crossed that divide. He played for Swansea and Cardiff before moving back to Swansea. So his club career, pretty solid. It was his Welsh career, though, that we look at as his sort of special moment and why he's considered one of Wales' greatest.
Well, he obviously was in the squad in the 58 World Cup.
Our one and only 58 World Cup. Yeah, the one that we've sadly not surpassed. The one that England fans still like to throw at us.
Yeah, quarter-final. Lost to Pele.
He played in all of Wales' matches and scored 2 in that World Cup. So he scored
a big one against Hungary, didn't he? In the playoff, because they finished on the same points in the group stage, Wales and Hungary, and they had to have a playoff to see who went through to the quarterfinals. And I think it was him and Medwin got the goals and sent them through. So yeah, Allchurch, definitely one of the greatest. He's actually in the English Football Hall of Fame. Ivor Allchurch, and obviously the Welsh one as well. So that's pretty impressive. And he's in the Football League 100 Legends club as well. So an excellent player. Okay, let's stick with the 58 team then. John Charles. This is probably the player who most people said when we said who's Wales' greatest player, which is a surprise because most people who replied to us on Twitter probably didn't see him play.
Yeah,
but he, for a lot of people, is the greatest. So he got 15 goals in only 38 games for Wales, which obviously there wasn't as many internationals back then, but it's surprisingly low in terms of the games, considering Allchurch had 68 around the same time. It might be something to do with the fact that he plays in Italy. What do you think then, G? John Charles.
Well, Carl Reynolds wrote about our article for John Charles. Thank you very much for that. Again, born 1931, so as you said, similar time to Allchurch. I think for him, his club career stands out. And that's absolutely not something to laugh at when we talk about actually the fact that in 97 he was voted as Juventus' best ever foreign player.
Yeah.
That is some record.
Considering the players they've had.
Yeah.
Platini, Zidane,
Absolutely crazy, really. So, he started out at Swansea Town and then moved to Leeds, and Leeds is where he became a bit of a legend. There, they've got the stand. I think the West Stand at Leeds is named after John Charles still to this day. 300 plus league games for Leeds, 150 plus league goals. But obviously, he started out as a centre-back originally.
And he was good there as well, wasn't he? It's a bit like Bale, wasn't it? Bale started off as a defender and he moved forward.
Yeah, he moved forward. When he moved forward, his goal record is remarkable.
Just wait for Chris Gunter to do the same now.
Yeah.
Get him up on the right wing. Sure, he'll bang in a couple of goals.
British record transfer fee holder, 65,000 for his move to Juventus. And that's a big thing. The 50s, it wasn't unheard of for footballers to move abroad. But it's still a significant thing to move from...
Maximum wage, wasn't it? It was in place, wasn't it? Over
here, and so he got a huge pay rise for doing that. And I think looking here at his record, he won 3 Scudettos, 3 Italian league titles, 2 Italian Cups, and he finished 3rd in the 1959 Ballon d'Or as well. So actually, he's a bronze Ballon d'Or winner. His record in Italy was remarkable. I think that's why part of the reason he was voted as one of their best ever foreign players. Juventus hadn't won the league for a number of years. I think it was 6 years they hadn't won the league, and he comes along, scores the goals, has a great debut season, and he ends up as the top goal scorer in Italy and wins them
Scudetto, is it?
the league. Yeah. So incredible, really. Wales' career, I guess, obviously you can't knock it for 58.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and he was actually the first Welsh player inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame, 2002. And he is, of course, in the Welsh Football Hall of Fame and in the Football League 100 Legends.
And who knows if he had played in that game against Brazil, because he was injured, wasn't he? Yeah. He was injured against Brazil. Pele, a little young, was he, 17-year-old Pele, scored the winner. But it's said that if Charles was there, we may well have knocked Brazil out and gone on to win that World Cup. I don't know. I'd like to think that we would have.
I'd like to think so as well.
I'd like to think so.
I'd like to think we'd have smashed everyone else in that tournament. So I will do one more for now for this podcast, and we'll look at the rest next time. We're going to finish on another forward. We're going to finish on Jess Fishlock, who is, of course, creating records of herself at the moment for the Welsh women's team. So what have we got here? That was our first article in our series by Lewis Davis. His Twitter is at HST_groundhop. High stress therapy. Sounds pretty good. Right, Fishlock then. What do we know?
So Fishlock, one of the youngest in terms of she's only 32. Cardiff girl herself. And I think she's great because she's played all over the world. It is absolutely not tokenism that Jess Fishlock's included. She's a phenomenal women's footballer, considered one of the best. And she started off at Cardiff City Ladies, one of our few Welsh people who actually did start at Cardiff City. We did produce someone.
Yeah. And
interesting, I was reading today that she was one of the first to move abroad, really, to the Eredivisie, the Dutch league. She moved to AZ Alkmaar when she was a teenager and became the first or the only foreign player in the league at that point, which must have been a really strange time for her, moving from South Wales over to the Netherlands.
She made a debut, didn't she, at 16 as well? Really young for the first team.
Young talent. She's had a bit of a journeywoman career. Brilliant. She's travelled the world in that way. She's played for Bristol. She's played for Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City. She's played for Frankfurt, Lyon, Glasgow, and Seattle Reign as well. Obviously for her.
Reign FC now, of course. That's what they're called. They've got the Seattle from their name. With, of course, Megan Rapinoe as well, who's obviously creating headlines at the moment at the World Cup. So Fishlock, what's most impressive about her is, I think, her move to Lyon recently. Obviously, it was on loan. And Lyon, of course, are by far and away the best team of women's football. And they have been for at least 15 years now. So they've won the French League every season since 2006, which is pretty mental. They're on the last, let's have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4 Champions Leagues as well. And so Fishlock signing for them, with the players they have, Lucy Bronze, they've had Alex Morgan there as well in the past. They've had all the best players in the world that played for Lyon. And Jess Fishlock has been there, and they won the Champions League this season again.
They won the treble this year, I think, didn't they? Won the League, the Coupe de France, and the Champions League as well.
There you go. So it was good at Fishlock because I think, as Lewis wrote in the article, earlier in her career when she was playing for, I think it must have been for Frankfurt, they won the Champions League, but her loan had finished just before the final. So she actually had left Frankfurt just before they played the final, which they won. So she didn't get a winner's medal.
She didn't get a medal. Oh.
No, she might have got a medal, but she obviously didn't play in the game. So it's not the same, is it really? No. I mean, she might.
And also, I mean, in terms of Wales, she's got 101 caps, which is huge, obviously, and 29 goals as well. So I think as a Welsh footballer, she's absolutely could be considered one of the greatest, and she's got a really, really good response to our Twitter article on her as well.
Yeah, only two Centurions to Wales, and she's one of them, here in Lauren Dykes. So yeah, excellent, really.
Incredibly respected. Cool. I reckon we'll pick up next time out. It is our first time on the last couple. We've still got 1 or 2 more articles to come too. Let's take a break and then we'll chat about what's been going on in the World Cup.
So, moving on from Jess Fishlock, keeping with the women's football vibe, we've obviously been watching the Women's World Cup quite avidly over the last few weeks. And there's been a lot of conversation about 3 letters, VAR. It's been the main thing about the World Cup, which is a shame. It has overshadowed at times some fantastic football and some really good games as well. I mean, last night's game, obviously at the time of the recording, England, unfortunately, well, depends on where you're from, going out to the USA 2-1.
No comment.
2-1. Yeah, I mean, VAR obviously came into the game there.
There was 2 instances, was there? And you're right. I think it has overshadowed it. It has overshadowed it a bit, and that's a shame, really, because I think really that's not the point of the Women's World Cup. It's been phenomenal, actually. The support and everything has been sensational. Listening, we said we both work in schools, to girls and boys, both watching it, loving the football has been sensational.
Yeah.
However, VAR we can't get away from. So yeah, let's talk about yesterday. There was those 2 incidents, wasn't there? Interestingly, well, we'll debate whether they were right or wrong. The first one, the offside. Ellen White was what, millimetres offside?
But offside, isn't it?
So are we agreed in that way that offside is offside?
Yeah.
Because this is where we bring in someone like Matthew Said or the ping pong guy, if you listen to that podcast, great podcast. He said that VAR is killing the joy of sport, VAR is killing the fun and that momentary joy. And with him, I agree in that sense, that VAR is making you now hesitate a little bit and go, are we allowed to celebrate?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've definitely thought that in the Liverpool game when they beat Barcelona 4-0, Origi scored the first goal.
Yeah.
And because he wasn't offside, he was nowhere near it, but for a split second he scored. I was like, I can't celebrate yet, just in case the ref goes VAR, no goal. So yeah, it does take that immediate response out, but
I don't. The difficulty is, I mean, everyone got the joy of celebrating yesterday. I know it was deflating afterwards, but Ellen White went crazy, and all the England fans went crazy, and Jonathan Pearce went crazy on the commentary as well. You know, I think the joy was still there; it was just taken away.
Yeah.
The issue is going to be when we start talking about long VAR breaks, and I don't think that was too long yesterday. I think they were quite sharp on the.
Not too shame.
It was the second incident. So if we say absolutely offside, which it was, good decision. That's what we want VAR for, to rule out things that should be ruled out. What about the penalty though? In your opinion, was it a penalty?
Yeah, just.
For those who haven't seen it, the ball comes across, Ellen White goes to shoot, and her shooting leg is taken away by the defender, isn't it? Initially, as soon as I saw her, I thought, oof, that looks like a penalty, just because of the way she went down and just because she was in front of the goal, 6-yard box, she could have easily scored. Mm-hmm. And then nothing happened, and then they made a substitute, and I think maybe had they not taken that substitute and they'd taken the goal kick, would VAR have come to it? But it seemed to be in the substitute break, they checked it. And then as soon as you saw the replay, you thought this is going to get given as a penalty. And that's what blew up on Twitter. A lot of people, even England fans, were obviously happy there was a penalty to England, which obviously Steph Houghton then, unfortunately for England, missed. I think the initial thing of this, they stopped it. We looked at loads of replays, slow-mo, super slow-mo. We did see it clipped, so therefore it probably was a penalty. But is that what we want from football?
Well, I'd say if it brings more goals, but they missed the penalty. So it's all relative to who's supporting, is it really?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, if that was Wales in the World Cup semi-final, and the Welsh player has got their shooting foot taken away, we'd be go mental.
Yeah.
If that wasn't given as a penalty.
And I agree with it being a penalty. I mean, I was cheering, you were saying, but
the fact we have to ask this question still about if it, do you think it's a penalty? I mean, VAR is meant to come in to say, Stonewall, it's exactly a penalty, but it, there's still debate caused by it, which.
And there's always going to be with penalties, and there's going to be with the handballs. And we've seen so many handballs recently in the Women's World Cup, but in obviously the Rashford one where they earned a penalty from the PSG game, where the guy was sticking his arm out. And it seems to be now these rules have shifted into if you make your body bigger. Now that's absolutely fine, but what it means is almost it's more appealing to shoot at an arm now. If you shoot at an arm, it hits the arm, you earn a penalty.
Especially if you're Chris Gunter, yeah. I don't know how happy to go to Chris Gunter today. I mean, it has distracted a bit from the quality of the tournament. It's a shame because last year in the men's tournament, VAR was used and it was used pretty well. But I think it's more to do with the rule changes. Why it's been so
the penalty thing has been ridiculous. The goalkeeper not standing on the line. I was reading actually, Premier League next year they're going to now goalkeepers aren't even allowed to move on the line. They've got to literally stand still. They can't wave their arms about. Sort of Jerzy Dudek, Bruce Grobbler style. They're not allowed to move. They're not allowed to touch the goalposts or anything. I think again to try and clear up this VAR stuff, and that's where I worry about it because as a Cardiff fan, everyone saw a match today at that or on Twitter or whatever that incident with Azpilicueta offside and it effectively potentially relegated Cardiff. We were winning against Chelsea at home. Chelsea score an offside goal and it turns the game. Now, in that case, VAR's nice and simple because he's a mile offside. I think the debate, and I saw it on Twitter, I was having a debate with someone, and we were saying maybe a referral system of some sort is the best way to go. Something like where we have in tennis and cricket where you can challenge.
Pretty
and if
sure
you're wrong...
Same in hockey as well.
Yeah, and NFL. And if you're wrong, you lose the challenge. And if you're right, you keep your challenge. And perhaps that's a way to solve it in some way. And you go, eventually we still get those debates because maybe if you've used your 3 challenges or your 2 challenges, 1.5.
Yeah, cricket's that, isn't it? Yeah. In the Cricket World Cup.
And then if it goes wrong, well, you can't moan about it. They can't. I think the problem is the TV officials, they're always going to pull it up. And I think the referee yesterday, and certainly in other ones we've seen, even in the World Cup last year, it was almost because they've been pulled up by the person in their ear. They feel like they have to give a penalty. Because if they disagree with that, if she had said on the pitch yesterday, that's not a penalty, she's got an awful lot of explaining to do. Whereas, I just think it means we're going to have a load more penalties in the Premier League next season. We will see.
Yeah,
what
we'll
it
see
does
Harry
for
Kane
us.
notching 60 goals probably. Alan Shearer would have had a field day. Go back to Women's World Cup then. Which player has impressed you the most in this tournament?
I think, in terms of headlines, but in terms of delivering on that, Megan Rapinoe's been superb, absolutely superb.
Yeah.
Delivered on it despite all the stuff going off on field.
Yeah.
The argument, very public argument, Donald Trump.
But
also, we can't take anything away from Ellen White. She's been
very impressed with it.
Sensational. And you feel for her yesterday because she had the record of was it most goals for an English woman in World Cups? Well, actually, for any English player.
Yeah.
Any English player. So she's taken over Harry Kane's record. And obviously that was taken away from her, that offside
British
goal.
player, I imagine.
Yeah, sadly. But yeah, I think she's been superb as well. England have been brilliant, and that's why I can't begrudge them how far they've gone. Who do you fancy for the final? Obviously, the game will take place tonight, and it's taking place as it happens for the other semi-final.
Yeah, I mean, I can't look past the US, really. I mean, the Holland, though, the Netherlands have been very good. Maybe they won the last year, I think, as well, didn't they? So they obviously are a team in form. I could see an upset, but I think with the experience that the USA have with Carly Lloyd and Alex Morgan, and obviously Megan Rapinoe, I think they probably have a bit too much experience. It's 0-0 at the moment. Just check there. I think Holland will get through to play them, but all Sweden a bit too.
Be a good final.
It'll be a good final. The last final was good actually, wasn't it? Was it 5-2 against Japan?
Yeah.
Carly Lloyd scored from a hat trick, didn't she? And scored from halfway.
That was sensational. That USA team is so good. My dad was saying yesterday, how are they so good, American women compared to the American men? And I can only just assume it's because they channel them down football at an early age there in schools and stuff.
I think I was having a chat yesterday with Reese, who wrote an article on Ryan Giggs, and he was saying that he used to teach football in America, and the young lads over there, when they're about 11, 12, will often get picked up by basketball, baseball, and American football when they're playing soccer. and they'll go and play those sports instead. Whereas for the women, football is the main sport, and that's what they get funneled into. Whereas the boys get taken off into these other games, which is obviously a shame because
well, it's like we said with Fishlock. Actually, for her going to Seattle was massive because actually you're joining the best league in the world, really. And obviously now the women's league here is vastly improving, and it's entertaining. It really is entertaining, but. Yeah, I think still America dominate it, and they're so good to watch. They're so enjoyable to watch too. So yeah, I look forward to the final on the weekend. Absolutely.
Fantastic. So there you go, but the Women's World Cup there. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick game now. I found a quiz on Sporkle. It's called 100 British Football Soccer Quiz Questions, and I've got all the answers for myself, obviously, and I've got them in order of difficulty. And I'm gonna every time we do a podcast, I'm gonna give you 5 questions, and then I'm gonna leave 1 for the audience, and then we're gonna next week or next time we do a podcast, we'll do another 5 and so on. Okay, it's gonna get harder and harder and harder as it goes on. Okay,
I could embarrass myself here.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I got all the answers. Okay, the average score on this is 7%.
Out of how many questions?
Out of 100 questions. So
7 out of
7 out of 100. Okay, good
maths.
Well,
that's not
excellent.
so bad.
Good maths, and you're a history teacher, but maths maybe in the future. Right. Okay. Question 1: who is the only team in the English and Scottish leagues with a J in their name?
Oh, that is a great question. I've got that. I'll leave time for the viewers, the listeners. Yeah. St. Johnston?
It is St. Johnston, correct. Well done, St. Johnston. Okay.
Was that one of the hard ones, or
that was the easiest question? 83.4%
brilliant.
Of people got that question right. Okay, question 2 is which British team? This is a question. Has won more European Cups than its own top league?
That is a phenomenal question. Then the top league.
So their top league.
British team, do you say?
British team, yeah.
Okay. That is a good question.
If you just whittle it down to the Champions League winners, that British Champions League winners, you'll probably get it.
Yeah. Well, so immediate thought was Villa, but I don't know if I'm being too hasty on that. So let's talk about it. We've got, obviously, Liverpool. We've got Man United, and they're obviously ruled out. We've got Chelsea, and they're ruled out. So therefore, we're whittling down. It must be either Forest or Villa, and I'm going to go with Villa.
Not in the Forest,
no.
Okay.
No, I'm surprised by that, because they won 2, didn't they? I would have thought they won 2.
I would have thought so as well, but no. So 60.1%
I'm sure listeners will rage at that.
who have got that one right. Okay, question 3.
Okay.
What is the only team in the Premier League whose name starts with 5 consonants?
Oh, God, that's a good question. This is... it's, of course, 9:30 in the evening. I've had a long day. I've been teaching today.
35% of people got this one, so it already drops down quite considerably. Okay, I'm gonna speed it along a little bit. I'm gonna give you a 15-second
15 seconds
timer. So I'm gonna start now.
Okay,
it's going.
None of the A's, none of the B's. Not Chelsea.
5 seconds.
I've got it.
Come on.
Crystal Palace.
Oh, well done. Correct. Oh, there we go. Well done. Crystal Palace. Yes. CRYST. Lovely. Okay. Right. Next question. Question 4. I think you'll get this one. A bit more history. Who was Britain's first £1 million player?
Oh, good. I think we had an article on this years ago. One of our originals, probably 2013. I think Christian Iandokan years ago. Trevor Francis.
Correct, Trevor Francis. I think that was to Nottingham Forest, wasn't it, as well?
£1 million. Yeah.
Who is the only player... This is a tough one. I imagine certain fans will get this, though. Who is the only player to score in a Manchester, Merseyside and Old Firm derby? And I'm going to start the timer.
I've got an immediate thought on that, but...
Come on.
Manchester, Merseyside...
Manchester, Merseyside, Glasgow.
I'll use my time just to consider others. Okay.
Time's up. Who are you going for?
I'm going to go Craig Bellamy.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Andre Kanchelskis. There you go.
Bellamy
90s reference there. Bellamy.
He scored in the Manchester derby. He must have not scored a Merseyside derby.
No, I don't think he did against Everton.
He scored in the Old Firm. There you go.
There you go. That's a good question. Right. Okay, so that's the first 5. Also, you'll get the next one next week, but I'm not going to give it to you yet.
Okay.
Right, I'm going to leave one more question then, and that's for the listeners. So if you know the answer, we'd like you to just tweet it to us at TFHBS on Twitter. And the question is, what is the team in the English and Scottish leagues that has the longest name?
Good question.
Do you have any ideas? Don't tell me the answer, but you've got...
I'll tell you off air. But okay. I do have ideas, yeah. I think it was on Question of Sport a few years ago.
Okay. Well, wait for that. Okay, Sue Barker still going strong. Okay, so, right, that's the questions done. Next bit of the show is all about an article that you wrote recently, all about sports history in schools.
Should we have a cup of tea and then we'll come back to it?
Sports history and the school curriculum, an important relationship is what you wrote. And of course, this is a topic which is close to our hearts because, of course, we are both teachers. Myself, a primary school teacher, yourself, a history teacher. And I think this is more to do with what you'll be teaching in the schools as opposed to me. Of course, in primary school, I can teach a bit about football history at times. I'll slip in a bit about, the women's football in the First World War and things like this. But you have a much more in-depth look at it, didn't you, recently? So what were your main findings?
Yeah, I think it was sparked after I listened to a Radio 2 debate with Jeremy Vine, and he said he had this stat that the schools were told in the media and by celebrities and on Twitter, high-profile things, newspaper headlines, there are over 350 in 2018 telling schools you must teach this, and this. And some of the examples I wrote down about safe trampolining after a girl was hurt trampolining, or you must teach all the different things about knife crime and all those, and saying, why don't schools teach this? Why do schools teach history and geography? And that was the thing that was targeted. And obviously as a history teacher, a humanities teacher, I teach a bit of geography as well. I think it's important to think about those things for me, certainly. And that's what I wrote about is why is history important? But also, why is sports history important? Because obviously we love sports history. And I've felt at times, maybe, when I've told people I write about sports history, it's almost a bit of a, what's the point? Is it just a bit of a hobby? Is there any relevance to it? And I think I wanted to explore a little bit of the relevance of sports history.
I think what I've realised recently a lot is the sports history that we write is actually, a lot of it's sociology, really, isn't it? It's looking at
absolutely
how sport, what the role it plays in society, but obviously we look at it from as far back as the Victorian time. So we have a historical look at the impact of football, or sometimes we look at wider sports in society. So it's like a sociology thing as well involved. What I thought was interesting at first in your piece was you said about the 350 skills or that aren't being taught, like mortgage lessons and safe knife usage, but you also mentioned, I think schools, obviously, we're teachers, we're going to have some sort of level of bias, but I do think schools are often just used as a scapegoat for a lot of society's problems, and they think, kids are being, a bit rowdy these days or on iPads, let's just blame the schools. It's an easy thing to do because that's where the kids are most of the day, and obviously I see them at the really young level, and they are coming into school without, basic skills of life that a lot of them aren't even potty trained. So it's quite embarrassing, really. And that all stems from stuff much broader than just schools. But there's a reason why they don't get taught mortgage lessons in schools, and that's it's boring. Would you want to do a mortgage lesson in the school, Gareth? Would you want to learn about?
Listen, we were having a conversation about it, weren't we? Because I think it's really interesting. I think part one I wouldn't be qualified to, because actually I'm learning that myself. We're both in our mid-20s. We're learning about how you get a mortgage yourselves. Also, one of those things I said in the article, and is true today, the bank I bank with because they came into school and gave us a talk about how you use money and what a debit card is
Get any freebies?
and all those things. I think they offered me a debit card, and that was obviously massively appealing.
You're in.
And I jumped on it. So I think those things do happen, but also, yeah, that's the point, that lots of it is boring in a way that you can't just sit someone down and say, this is a mortgage, this is how you pay your tax, because those children will not listen. There's not kids who are going, I want a mortgage lesson.
I mean, children can study economics.
Yeah, I did.
Business studies. There's a lot of financial skills involved in that. And if you get the basic math skills, a lot of these later things like interest and whatever, it'll come to you.
And this ties into history then for me, because that's where I went on to argue. So we talked about that, and what's the point of history? Well, then you look at it, and it's actually the skills that history brings you. And for me, it's things like that, the longer, extended writing, but writing in a way that you can judge both sides. As historians, even in a primary school level, year 5, 6, you teach them to weigh out both sides, on the one hand, on the other hand, to look at evidence and analyse things. History is so important for that. And history is important for oracy skills, getting people to stand up and campaign for whatever.
Persuasive language.
Yeah, all those different things. All those things, looking at recruitment posters from the First World War and looking at what tools were used there. There's so much benefit. And then that's where sort of finally I bring in sports history. And I think it's so important. You've got the article in front of you. Some of the things that we've written about in the past that you think could find its way into a school curriculum.
Yeah. I've done loads of writing into football education now, haven't I? And I teach year 3 at the moment. I teach 7 and 8-year-olds. Last year I was in year 5 with the 9 and 10-year-olds. And whatever year I've taught, if I ask boys and girls what's your favourite thing, they'll all say a sport. They'll say football. They'll say dancing. They'll say netball. Whatever. That's what they're interested in. That is what their passion is sport. And if and some subjects like history, like geography, even maths and literacy, they're not going to be automatically interested in it. Just even however amazing you make a lesson, but sometimes giving it a context, like a football context, even in maths, or a football context in geography, and obviously in history, can immediately capture their imagination and draw them straight into a lesson. They want to learn about it because it's something that they're passionate about. And I think learning about the history of the world and its effect on societies over time through the eyes of a footballer, or what's happening in football is a really good tool to use, because you're not just learning in 1917 or so and so beat so and so 3-1. It's 17 so and so beat so and 3-1, but at the same time, the crowd had 60,000 spectators of this type of society, that type of society. Why were these people there? Why weren't these people there? And it draws in all these extra questions that you can answer.
Football gives you this snapshot of, and sport in general, it's not just football here, we're pro all sport, gives you a snapshot of society at the time. And absolutely, I think, so if we talk about the 1974 World Cup, East Germany versus West Germany, the only ever time they met in competitive football, it was West German soil, and you can talk about how West Germany is more developed. They could host a World Cup. They hosted that World Cup. They were favourites. They were managed by an East German who had escaped into West Germany for a better life. You can bring in elements there if that's what happened. But actually, East Germany won 1-0.
Yeah.
And that was a huge moment that talks about the Cold War tensions, that talks about East and West Germany. That I love that story. You can talk about the Second World War and the First World War, of how footballers played their part. In the First World War, Walter Tull.
Yeah.
Amazing man that we've talked about in the past, a black man who became the first black army officer. He was also a footballer for the likes of Tottenham Hotspur and Northampton. He was, and I use him as an example and say, imagine a Raheem Sterling and Marcus Rashford go into fighting war
Sergeant Cristiano.
Yeah.
So
I think sports history is incredibly important, and it shouldn't be dismissed. And I think we don't want to bore people with the education issues of it, but I think the way the Welsh education is going is where there is a little bit more freedom, and where we're talking about making learners lifelong learners, really interested in learning for the rest of their lives. Doing, like you said, something that's going to interest them is great. You said you've done it with your class with a picture of Messi and got them to annotate a picture of Messi.
Yeah, add verbs to what so Messi, it was a picture of him kicking a football, and they had to do verbs of how he might move on a football pitch, and then add adverbs to it, and it was good. They did a good piece of work, and I think just because I had Messi, it immediately engaged the class, and the people who are into football thought, I need to do a better job than this person who's into football because this is my sport. So they really, they go for it. But sports history, I mean, we obviously loved it. I mean, my dissertation was on tennis, Victorian lawn tennis, and its effect on the middle class. So immediately, I don't think I had many lines in there about results. So and so beat so and so 6-2, 6-4, 6-love. It was, why was it picked up by these people in society, and what effect it had on them, or what effect it had on what they wore, how they acted, how they left the house, everything. And sport was that main theme all around it. So I think it definitely holds a place in a curriculum.
Well, I said mine was hooliganism in the 70s and 80s in Britain. Very little about actual scorelines. It was more about the society, what was happening politically, what was happening in terms of social tensions and different things like that. So I think sports history is so important. That's why I will bang the drum for sports history.
I think we'll definitely return to this topic. We could talk about this for hours, can we?
I know, we don't want to bore people here.
We're very passionate about it. But yeah, okay, there we go. So we'll move on then. 3 tournaments that are going on at the moment. There is the Copa America, the African Cup of Nations, and the Gold Cup. Now, because the Women's World Cup's been on, because we've been teaching, I haven't paid as much attention, and obviously the time differences, especially in Brazil, have affected any viewing. But obviously Brazil have made it to the final. They'll be playing either Chile or Peru. They won 2-0 yesterday. Firmino scored. Wasn't a no-look goal this time.
Jesus and Firmino.
Yeah, so there you go. Both playing the same team. That's really helped. Messi, another trophyless Copa America. I'm sure they're just... Every year these days there's a Copa America as well.
There's one next year.
There you go.
There's actually one next year.
2015, 2016, 2019, 2020.
I think they're trying to kick the
change the
cycle, but yeah, weird.
Yeah, so eventually I'm sure, is it Commonable? Yeah, I'm sure they'll get Messi a trophy.
I feel that we were having this conversation before we started off air, wasn't it? And we said for Messi, it's always going to haunt him, this never lifting a international trophy, and I desperately hope he does, because I think it's something that people beat him with, and they will forever beat him with. But it's very easy to beat him with, because actually for Argentina, it's not happened for him, has it?
Yeah, that's 2 fights. He won the Olympics, but right. African Cup of Nations, Egypt, Mo Salah scoring the goals. They're through. I'll just give you quickly. I'll just tell you teams who are left, and you're going to give me a prediction of who's going to win it. Okay. And then we'll move on to the Gold Cup. So, I mean, that used to be in January, didn't it? And they've obviously changed it.
I think that's much better. It was always a nightmare at Football Manager when you had... it's just happened to me now. I'm playing Football Manager 16 still. I mean, 2035. But all my players were still all going out. A nightmare.
I think, actually, speaking of sports history and sports society, this is an important AFCON because it was originally going to be hosted by Cameroon. And it got scrapped because of the Boko Haram insurgency in that region. So that shows immediately, sport...
More than just scorelines.
Exactly. You've got the African Cup of Nations, but all this anything going on around it, and sport is in there. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't know about... Because it obviously is just not in Europe, and obviously the way the media is these days, people wouldn't know about the Boko Haram insurgency. But now they've got this football tournament, it becomes new. So football, is used in that way. Right, here's the teams that are left. We have... All right, we got Egypt. We have Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo, Madagascar. Yeah.
They pulled off a big win, didn't they the other day?
Beat Nigeria, Nigeria. Nigeria, so Guinea, so Naby Keita's Guinea. Algeria, Senegal, Morocco, Ivory Coast, and South Africa, Mali, Tunisia. Right, who's going through? Who's winning?
Oh, this is literally plucking a name out of the air.
It's in Egypt, but it's been hosting it, and for me that might hold a bit of weight, and they have got good record.
I'm going to go Tunisia.
Tunisia, they were good in the World Cup, actually. They picked
good in the World Cup. North African AFCON. I think I'm going to go Tunisia.
Okay, I'm going to go for Egypt.
That's just because of Mo Salah.
And Egypt against Senegal final. Salah versus Mane. I think that'd be quite a good one to watch. Right, Gold Cup. I haven't paid much attention to this.
I have. I've paid more attention to this just because Junior Hoylett and Leandro Bacuna are there.
Cardiff.
Yeah, both Cardiff men. Both have done well. Both have scored a couple of goals. Both eliminated in the quarterfinals though, so they are on their way back.
Okay, so semi-final tonight actually. Jamaica versus USA. And Haiti, the mighty Haiti, lost to Mexico 1-0 in the semi. So it's probably going to be another Mexico-USA final.
Yeah.
As always is. And prediction?
We're going to go Mexico.
I go. Well, I was going to say Mexico, but I'll go USA now because you said Mexico. Right, okay, fab. Have we got one more little quick quiz?
Yeah, go on. We'll finish. We're using up all our good ideas here, Ben. But it's our first podcast, so let's use it. So this is a poorly and quickly thought of guess the year. Okay, what we're going to do, I've got 7 clues, or you'll get it by the 7th clue, absolutely. But I want you to guess the year. They're going to be historical situations. Okay. I'm not going to tell you straight away. I'll have a guess after every clue, and then we'll see how quickly you can guess the year.
Okay.
People can join in at home, so leave a little bit of a gap for them to have a little think. Okay.
Shoot.
Clue 1. Katharine Hepburn wins Best Actress for the film Morning Glory, whilst Yorkshireman Charles Lawton wins Best Actor for The Private Life of Henry VIII. What year?
1954.
Okay, 54. Question 2, or fact 2. Alcatraz, the prison, officially becomes a federal prison, so it moves over from being a military prison to a federal prison for the worst offenders from the other prisons in America.
I'm going to stick with the 50s. 54 still.
Okay. Bit of a music clue for you now. Frankie Valli, American singer with the 4 seasons, was born in Newark.
I was born.
New Jersey.
Newark. 1935.
Interesting, okay. It's been quite American themed at the moment. This may narrow it down, this may not, but it's a first sport one for you.
Okay.
Babe Ruth plays his last game for the Yankees.
38.
Okay. On the 9th of June, the first appearance of Donald Duck. I don't know if it helps. 9th of June, the first appearance of Donald Duck in the cartoon The Wise Little Hen.
That'll be 30s. It's definitely. I'm sure it's the 30s then. 33.
Okay.
Going up and down the 30s at the moment.
Clue 6. Marie Curie, the Polish-French scientist who obviously discovered radium, won the Nobel Prize in 1903, 1911, a great woman, dies at the age of 66 on the 4th of July.
Okay, well, that's not going to give you much more.
I know.
I'm going to go with 33 still. Will I change it? 33, yeah.
Yeah, 33, okay. This may narrow it down here. I should be getting this history teacher. The Night of the Long Knives takes place in Germany.
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler, for those who don't know, executes his political opponents, such as his friend Ernest Röhm, who's most famous.
34.
And the final one then, which you should definitely get this. Italy win the World Cup.
1934.
1934, well done.
Did I have to say it earlier?
No, you didn't.
I did.
Question 7. You got it in 7 questions.
Okay,
Let us know if you were listening along how quick you got it, and we'll do that again. Hey, that was quite nice.
I like that. Good quiz. Like that. Like the little sport bit at the end. That's what
brings it in. And actually, that is the next article I'm writing.
All right.
The Italian World Cup 1934. So that brings it in.
Stay tuned.
Nicely.
Okay, so thank you very much for listening to the first episode of the Football History Boys podcast. We're aiming to maybe do this every couple of weeks. I think it'd be quite good.
Yeah, slicking it up. It's our first attempt at it, so I think we've done okay.
Yeah,
hopefully.
let us know what you think. I'll give you that quiz question again, just so they can have another little listen. If you know the answer, at TFHBS, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Because, we're big time now. Okay, so the question is, which is the team in the English and Scottish leagues that has the longest name? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Goodbye from me, Gareth Thomas.
And me, Ben Jones.
Listen again next time.